Are NBA players really going to be for lifers on one team for their whole career? Um, I mean, when you think about for lifers, you go to some of the greatest players of all time. Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Bill Russell. Um, then there's so many more. I mean, we've got some current guys like Stephen Curry. We've got guys that are, still about halfway through their career or less, and Giannis, Jokic. But those are some of the guys I want to talk about. And, I think it's the best time to talk about it because, well, there's a bunch of Giannis rumors. Kevin Durant is a guy who's been on multiple teams and is kind of the not the poster boy, but like kind of is one of the, examples of what I mean. Um, Kevin Durant's one of the greatest players of all time, one of the greatest small forwards of all time, but he's had no problem switching teams. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the first time that he did it, the way he did it was definitely people didn't enjoy it. I don't know if anybody enjoyed it, even if you were a diehard basketball fan and loved everything about the NBA, unless you were a Warriors fan. And even some Warriors fans maybe didn't like it because this guy's now jumping ships after we just beat him, but whatever. They were still happy. They won 2 rings with him. But, like, with all the second apron stuff, and we don't know if the second apron is here to stay. We don't know if they have, future plans to maybe get rid of it or anything. But all that we know is the second apron came in a couple years ago, and it has started to take teams down that are, expensive or quote unquote super teams. We are seeing an example currently where the Celtics are going through the implications of the second apron, and they are going to need to trade one of their at least one of their guys. Um, and I think few years ago, like there are so many players we would have been like, yeah, this guy's gonna be a for life for this, that, for whatever. You can't see him changing teams. You know who was another a poster boy for that? Luka Doncic. Now, granted, that is a one in like not a mil, but like that is something that I don't know if we'll ever see again. How that trade happened, everything that went into it. Um, but I mean, you talk about some of the young guys that I think could do this. The 3 that I put on the thumbnail that you clicked on, Jason Tatum, he's about I think he's going into his ninth year technically. He won't be playing, but I think it'll technically be his ninth year next season. Anthony Edwards, I think, will be his 6th year, and then Vic is going into year 3, I believe. Um, Tatum, again, he's been here a little bit longer. He's almost 10 years in, and he's going through an injury. He doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. Anthony Edwards is still super young. I think he's 24. He's got so much ahead of him. But the way that he's been, what he's done for Minnesota, he's already one of Minnesota's greatest players of all time. 2 conference finals in a row and everything like that. And then Vic, it's way too young to tell for Vic, but Vic is a generational type guy. But we've seen those generational guys move, right? Number 1 and number 2 of all time, Michael Jordan and LeBron James have both switched teams. Granted, they did it for different reasons. Mike was at the end of his career when he did it. LeBron did it to, get his first couple rings, then went back, then went to LA. Even the third best in my eyes, Kareem, Milwaukee and LA, switch teams. But I think the implications of all the salary cap make it so I don't think we're going to see too many anymore. I think I think the greatest player that we're going to see that won't switch teams that we have in front of us is Steph Curry. I mean, he's what 16 years in, and the people that are kind of staying around, like Clay's not even. You couldn't tell anybody Clay wasn't going to be a for lifer in Golden State. Obviously, he went to Dallas. Wonder how he feels about that. With Kyrie going down, Luca's gone. Wonder if he would have just stayed. But like Draymond Green, heck, Miles Turner is what I think he's in year 10 or 11, and he's never been an All Star. He's never been All NBA. He's whatever. He was, I believe, almost DPOY once, but He's been there for a while. I think it's funny enough, I think it might be, a little bit more common that we see some of those guys be four lifers. Like I don't Joel Embiid could technically be a four lifer if he has to medically retire after this season, but I don't think like I think if somebody called for Joel Embiid that and the Sixers liked the price, they would send him out. Giannis, another guy who literally might be traded in the next couple months. I doubt it. I put out a whole video about that. If you want to watch that video, you should. Where I talked about all that. But there is just not a lot of players that I see, and I don't think will stick around anymore because again, you talk about those generational type guys, best players in their franchise's history or best player, top 3 in the league for however many years in a row. They have a say in their future, right? Like whatever they want, the teams are going to do. LeBron, perfect example. Prime of his career, I think 7 years in with Cleveland, and then he goes to Miami because he wants to win. They weren't, he'd been to I think a final in Cleveland the first stint, but couldn't get anything, and then he, was fine with going to Miami, and I think that's another thing that people don't take into consideration. It's not just on the teams on if they keep a player or not. It genuinely depends what the players want. We are in a players association where the general manager, the owners, the coaches are the people in charge, you say, but you're paying this guy $200 million for over 4 years. You're gonna do what he says. You're gonna listen to him. You're gonna take their inputs. And I think that's where you see like, right, like Kevin Durant is a top 15 player still probably. Um, Phoenix had all the intentions in the world to trade him this, trade deadline, but he said no, just for them to trade him 6 months later. So again, Kevin Durant's not somebody that should be brought up because obviously he is not one of these players I'm talking about. But I mean, I think if Jason Tatum, if after his injury he plays the next year and they are, depending on even how the team looks in a couple months, Jason Tatum could walk in and the Celtics will trade him. The Celtics aren't going to say, no, you have to be a for lifer, or no, you're one of, the best players in franchise history in recent, memory. We're not trading you. Jalen Brown, another Celtic that there's a chance he might be gone this offseason. I doubt it, but there's a chance. And I think you look at some of those guys who have been here for so long, and it's like, you can't even see them on another team. Devin Booker, another example that like it was speculated, oh, if Kevin Durant's out, so is Booker. But Booker is maybe the greatest son of all time. Maybe he's top 3, top 5. He's on the Mount Rushmore, no question. But he's 10 or 11 years in and he doesn't I mean, he made the one final, but he went through some rough times. He went through a bunch of different coaches early in his career. He was on some of the worst teams in the league early in his career, and he's staying put. But again, that could change. Devin Booker could walk into the Phoenix Sun office and say, "Hey, I need to win. You guys need to trade me." And not only are they going to listen, Devin Booker is going to say his preferred destinations, and they are going to try and get him there, just like they're doing with Kevin Durant, just like they tried to do Portland with Damian Lillard. He wanted to go to Miami, but they didn't want Tyler Hero. I believe they wanted Bam. So they ended up going to Milwaukee. Obviously, it hasn't worked out too amazing in the few years he's been there, but I think it just we're not going to see players stick around like we used to, and I don't also believe that that should be an asterisk on, if they win a championship with another team. Like some people want to say, oh, Kevin Durant can't do anything without Curry. And sure, maybe he hasn't won a ring without Curry, but Kevin Durant was the best player on those teams every time. One Finals MVP, he was the best player on that team for all the years he was there. Even the year that they got eliminated by Toronto in the finals, he was the best player until he went down. Um, and that's why he got Finals MVPs. But I think if you switch teams, like if Giannis was to switch teams, he's got one ring already, which is something a little different because these four lifers that kind of switch teams are like a Damian Lillard who's been loyal, who's been there for almost a decade or more, and they haven't won yet, and they want to go win, which is another reason why I don't think Giannis can't will be traded. But like there are implications behind it where like if Giannis goes and wins another ring, sure it adds to his legacy, and sure he will probably be the number one guy. And I don't think that'll do too much. But like if Devin Booker went to say he went to Dallas and say Kyrie and AD were healthy all year and Kyrie and AD outplayed Devin Booker all year long, all playoffs long, and Devin Booker was the third best player on that team. And it was like, the Mavericks could have won without him. Sure, it helped. They were able to handle series because they had another all-star slash all NBA type of player on their team. But I think when you are not the lead guy or like, the biggest contributor, it doesn't do too much. I don't think Devin Booker wins that ring, and then Devin Booker's a top 10 shooting guard of all time now because he won a ring where he was the third fiddle behind all these other guys. Another perfect example that happened in real life, Paul George. If the Sixers were good and Paul George was the third guy and Paul George won the ring, sure, it helps his Hall of Fame case. Sure, you can say he finally gets that ring. But like, what does it do to is Paul George now a top 10 small forward of all time? I don't think so. No. And someone this did actually happen for Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard won of the ring with the bubble Lakers. He won the ring. You can't say anything about it. It is on his resume. But Dwight Howard was old and he wasn't, Orlando, Dwight. He wasn't prime all-star defensive player of the year, Dwight. Now, granted, he was older. He was quote unquote, he was ring chasing at that time, but I don't really think that ring changed how people thought about Dwight Howard. So I mean, I could see it going either way with a lot of these guys, but I think when you talk about the current generation of players, like again, it could genuinely go either way because sure, I feel like back, 20, 30 years ago, players wanted to win, they wanted to win, they wanted to win. But when you see but when these guys see the money that they could get by being, having a good first couple rookie seasons, making all NBA once, Larry Markkinen, I'm sure would have liked to go to the Warriors, maybe had a chance to win. But Lauri Markkanen's getting paid $40 million per year now to be on Utah, basically playing. I mean, I don't even know how many games he played, but he did not play a lot. He played 47 games, and those other games, it's not he wasn't hurt. He didn't have an injury where he missed half the season. He just wasn't playing because Utah wanted to be bad. So I think this generation too also isn't I don't think winning is the only thing on their minds anymore because you see the contracts that you can get in. I mean, other than baseball, NBA has the most ridiculous contracts that you can get. And it has gone up every year. How many times every offseason have we heard this is the biggest contract of all time? A couple summers ago, it was Jalen Brown. Last summer, it was Jason Tatum. This year, it would have been Luca if he didn't get traded. But now it's about to be Shea because he won MVP, and it's about to be almost a $400 million contract. I feel like 5, 6 years ago, we were at a max is 180, $200 million, and now we're at almost 400 million. So there's a world where teams go and get their bag, teams stay, get their bag, and they don't win, or they just try and do this ring chasing thing where again, you could get a ring, you could end up being the best player on a team if you switch teams, but we're seeing with the parity league that it's not guaranteed that you're gonna just go and win a team. It's not guaranteed that you're gonna be like Kevin Durant, go join one of the best team of all time and win 2 rings in a row. Probably 3 if Kevin and Clay didn't get hurt that 3rd year. So again, I know I kind of went back on everything I said early in the video because that makes it so that players will stay with what I was saying. But it's either players go and chase the ring and they, again, they could be a top player. It could help legacies for sure. But I think there's a lot of instances where you switch teams, you win a ring, that ring doesn't do anything for you, especially if it's just one. Like, again, honestly, if Damian Lillard wins a ring in Milwaukee, it helps. It would bump him up, I think, a few spots on the all-time point guard list. But it's not like Damian Lillard's all of a sudden a top 3 point guard because he gets one ring. So let me know what you guys think about that for sure in the comments. Maybe I'm bugging. I want to hear other perspectives of this because I think it's just I don't know how many players we're going to see be for lifers when you talk about the top of the top talent. But let me know what you think. Make sure you're coming back and subscribing, and then we'll be back for more. The finals start tomorrow, so we are excited for that. We're going to have videos coming out about them as well.